All right, so today we're here with Brett Fraser, which way?
Fraser.
Fraser. He's the Chief Athlete Officer of the Enhanced Games, and which is something we're very interested to hear about, which is the whole point we've had you on this podcast today. So I'm probably going to mess it up if I give the whole mission and overview of the Enhanced Games, so maybe I'll leave that to you to give a brief overview before we get into it.
Sure. So the Enhanced Games is essentially a competitor to the Olympic Games. The most bold aspect of it is that we do not have drug testing. We're creating a more aligned profit sharing structure for athletes. We're saving money for taxpayers in host countries by building a dedicated campus where the games will take place on an annual basis. In addition to that, we're going to streamline the disciplines of sports that we're going to include. So it's going to be 5 disciplines: track and field, swimming, gymnastics, weightlifting, and select combat sports.
Okay, so there's like
time out. What's a combat sport?
like MMA and jiu-jitsu?
That's right. We're still delineating which exact sports we're going to have, but Brazilian jiu-jitsu, regular jiu-jitsu, judo, and the like.
Okay.
Right. So you're not encouraging drug use. You're just saying you're not testing for it. Or are you saying, hey, let's see what we can do?
It is allowed. So, it's upon the athlete to determine with the consultation of clinicians and medical professionals to understand what is best for them during their training and during their performance. So while we would like to see science progress, we're not, encouraging the misuse of compounds that, will do harm to your body. But we would like to include science in the next generation of elite competition, which is what we are developing.
So is that the basic premise behind this? Is that you feel like almost like it's a Luddite sort of situation going on in sports where it's like the fear of bringing, science and progress into sport?
What was the first part of that?
Luddite. Maybe I'm being a little too.
So more like instead we're in some ways we're moving forward with technology, whether that's apparel or shoes and everything else, but in other ways we're still stuck in, say, 100 years, or I don't know, the same way we've always been, where we have these amazing medical advances in science and performance that you think aren't being harnessed. Is that kind of what we're saying?
I think essentially, everyone at the back of their mind, anyone who likes or is a sports fanatic, wants to understand where the human body can go. And if you think about it, every aspect of human life these days is modified or enhanced in some sort of way, down to the food we eat. Everyone's going to doctors to fix either the appearance of their bodies or their faces. So I think allowing sports to use the best of science and develop the human body is what we're trying to accomplish. And with that, we'd like to see what is next for achievement in sports for humans.
Yeah. So and obviously this is pretty controversial because there's a whole, I'd say the majority of people think that, I don't know if it's like the majority, I guess it's a hard number to put on, but that clean sport or natural athleticism is what we should value,
or is it fair? Is it fairness? Is it fairness, or like, do you think those people are more concerned with the actual use of these drugs and the harm they can do, or with the fairness of the sport? Because I think a lot of the pushback right now is it's the fairness. So if you go up against the line and you are adhering to the rules of the sport, and someone isn't, and they're sneaking under the wire with testing, but they have that advantage, I think that's where it seems like people get more upset when they feel like they missed a podium. But maybe you could let us know what you're hearing.
I think there's merits to both sides of that conversation. The first being the fairness. It's not fair right now in elite competition. There are countries and there are groups that will always try to beat the system, and I think that has been the case for a while. And at the Paris Olympics next year, we're going to see people that get caught for doping. I think that's just a likely outcome. In terms of the danger of using performance enhancements, I think the human body hasn't been studied enough, and athletes haven't been studied enough while taking whatever doctors have prescribed and developed to allow them to run faster, use oxygen in a more efficient manner. just to really optimize their blood cells. So I think the danger from it comes from where these compounds are being sourced from and how they're being used and administered. Sketchy pharmacies in Mexico or the Philippines, or India are selling, these compounds around the world where you can get them online, and everyone reads whatever they can on the internet without medical supervision and starts to take these medications and pills and harm their bodies without having the actual knowledge of a clinician or a medical professional to understand really what it does.
Right. So, and you bring up an interesting thing, because doping is still in the sport. Everyone knows it. There's always someone getting pegged for it. It seems like every month or something, someone who's won, at least in the running scene, even a major marathon or placed in the Olympics or podiumed in big events. It always seems like someone's getting caught. So it's clearly we know it's happening, and probably on a larger scale than a lot of people realize.
Well, that in itself might be a good question. Like, now that you guys are open about it and you say, hey, this is something that we're pushing, do you find that athletes are quietly coming to you and inquiring about the mission?
Yes. So it's been interesting to see the amount of inbound requests we've had, and the amount of athletes that want to learn more about the games and what we're doing and ultimately participate. However, I think that there is some sort of wanting in the current status of the Olympics to cheat and win a medal. I think that is going to be the problem that we need to solve to create fair competition. I think the prestige of an Olympic medal causes so many people to want to get that by any means possible. So, it has been really interesting to see athletes and exciting to see athletes that have come to us saying that I want to optimize my body. I want to use the best of science in order to perform at the highest level possible.
Right. So, and then I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out with the enhanced games, because on one hand, I love the idea that if you're an adult, you want to decide what you want to do with your body, that you should have the opportunity to perform and do that. I totally get that reasoning, but how do you do that in a way that you want to see athletes performing at their best? So how do you get the best athletes to buy into that idea? Or even if athletes who are open-minded, but again, the prestige isn't there yet. So how do you convince somebody to jump from, say, the Olympics or performing there to the enhanced games?
So I think with this, to create a competitive environment at the first games, it's not just enhanced athletes that we're encouraging to compete, it's natural athletes as well. And I think we'll be able to attract natural athletes by the incentive structure and the prize money that we have developed for the events. I think it'll be really interesting, and it will breed a more competitive environment for competition to have enhanced athletes and natural athletes competing together. And I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to see an even mix, or purely enhanced athletes, or I don't think they'll be just natural athletes. But it's going to take some time to build up to having the top 5 in whichever category of athletes in the world competing at the games. I don't think at the first games we're going to have the top 3 natural athletes in the world competing. Over time, I think that'll happen quickly. I think the entertainment value and the sheer competition nature that we're breeding and building is going to attract athletes from both sides.
Yeah, I think the money is a huge incentive, but I would worry that the ambiguity of whether or not you are doping, like if I participate in the game and say I'm clean, but that cast a shadow that perhaps I'm not, even though I could totally be clean, just because it is a game where you don't like.
There will be a way to test for that. With the development of enhancements for enhanced athletes, I think we'll have a very good understanding and a complete understanding of what is out there and what is able to, enhance your body, so that when natural athletes, if they decide to compete at the enhanced games, can go back and test with certainty that they're natural or they're enhanced.
Now, like if they are competing against, I guess what I'm also trying to figure out is like, what's the incentive if you are clean to go against somebody who like obviously people are going to be enhanced, so what's the incentive for the clean athlete in that situation?
Well, the Olympics doesn't pay any prize money. The enhanced games pays prize money.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, and that's one of the things I love about when I was on your site and looking at kind of your why and your mission. One of the parts I really loved was calling out the IOC and like essentially the corruption in sports, where there's so many athletes living at below poverty level, not winning hardly any prize money. They don't have health insurance or anything like that, and it seems like something you're really want to address with the enhanced games. So can you tell me how that works a little bit?
Sure. I mean, the exploitation of the IOC is very real. Having competed at 3 Olympics and been fortunate enough to have climbed the ranks of swimming throughout the years and found a way to fund my love for the sport and compete. It's really sad to see Olympic athletes creating OnlyFans to fund their training and lead up to go to the Olympics, where they're not going to win any money per se, because if they win a gold medal, the IOC is not paying them. It has to be their country's Olympic committee. It has to be their country's federation or government. There is compensation, but it's not compensation one would expect for being the best in the world or the best in your profession. So for athletes, we're engineering a base income structure so that if you rank, and we're not sure what the rankings are, but top 15, top 20 year over year, there will be a compensation package where you will receive a salary, and then assuming that you are ranked that high, you'll be eligible for prize money as well. So the financial incentive, I think, cures a lot of the worry for existing athletes today.
And so then now you talked about how your events will be a little bit different in that you'll use already existing stadiums. Obviously, when the Olympics each year or every 4 years, when they choose a location, it's almost a burden to the host city to build out the infrastructure and a lot of times it's a big loss for them. So how are you going to fix that situation?
So we've conducted a site analysis exercise. We still haven't identified where we would like the first games to take place or where the dedicated campus will be. What we've also considered is perhaps we have 4 key cities or 5 key cities around the world where these campuses are built, and the games travel every single year around those. But initially, I think it will be at one dedicated campus. The location still is to be determined.
Okay. So have you seen a lot of interest then from athletes or from coaches or a certain kind of sport as you've kind of as you're starting out with this?
Initially, as expected, there was a lot of misunderstanding. However, over time, as we began to educate the public, there has been a lot of questions that athletes and coaches have come to us with, wanting to understand more, agreeing that the IOC and the existing structure for athletes competing at the Olympics is unfair, inefficient, and exploitative. So, the interest, it's been increasing every single day. I think since we launched on June 20th up until today, which is the 11th of July, it's just become more and more every single day. So, responding to the questions and addressing these issues are helping us refine the model as we continue to roll out to the public what our broader strategy is.
All right, so right now we live in Maryland, and marijuana has just become legal. So I kind of see like a parallel and seeing if it's the same thing. Before it became legal, there wasn't a real way to know what you were actually getting. You might, whatever the person's saying, hey, here's your weed, and it's this kind or that kind, this type of buzz. Now with the companies getting involved in it being grown and sort of regulated, we're seeing it's like a cleaner product and a more purposeful product. Do you feel like with the games, if there's going to be athletes able to, use these things, it will advance also like pharmaceuticals, and will they be somebody that you feel will be a sponsor for the games?
That's exactly correct. As far as sponsorship for the games, can't comment if if pharmaceutical companies will be involved. However, I think to your point, yes, we will be developing and bringing light to the existing compounds that everyone is aware of, and hopefully developing new medical therapies and technologies that similar to the acceptance of marijuana. Low dose testosterone, peptides, all these things that you're getting targeted ads for these days. Hopefully, bringing these to a more aware, bringing these compounds and medications to the public, produced in a more high quality, professional manner, administered by medical professionals and prescribed by them.
So do you see this as like I'm seeing it now with other things like anything from ED to hair loss or whatever? You're able to go on, even weight loss. Now go on to an app, you talk to a pharmacist or whatever, describe the problem, go through a little checklist, and then you get whatever you want now, even through your phone. Is that something that you'd think that in the future, maybe perhaps even for amateur athletes who are just trying to get better at their sport, or bulk up on muscle or whatever it is, they would be able to go to an app and consult with a doctor and get a regimen that would be useful to them? Is this a bigger play on it other than just sports competition? Do you feel like this would be something that would open the door for an industry?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that's possible. Providing more access and more education to tools that help your body and increase longevity and well-being, I think is a good thing. I mean, you can't even turn your TV on for 10 to 15 minutes without getting 1 to 2 or more pharmaceutical commercials about who knows what these drugs are. So for athletes, as long as it's done in a safe practice, in a safe manner, and with medical supervision, because obviously these are pretty significant altering technologies and substances, then I think once folks are of age and can consult with a doctor with free and informed consent, then yeah, it's totally fine.
So what are some misconceptions about performance enhancing supplements or drugs? Because we grew up in the 90s when honestly baseball was awesome. Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, say what you will, but that freaking late 1990s was a great time for baseball, and it saved baseball because everybody was, there was a strike, and then basically steroids saved baseball. So we all know it was an awesome time, but there was still like this huge stigma around it that you have this picture of just Jose Canseco in the locker room just sticking a needle in his ass, it was like the Wild West, and I'm sure things have changed since then, or maybe they haven't, but I want to know, it just seemed like this thing that was just bad. So are those perceptions correct? Are there misconceptions? I know we're 25 years later after that, so maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So just first and foremost, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. So whatever I disclose here is just my understanding of what it is. So I think
sure.
I think there's a common misconception with for specific sports, like for swimming, for example, which I was a former swimmer. I don't think any sane swimmer or sane doctor would be like, go out and take, whatever 100 milligrams or whatever a very high dose of a powerful anabolic steroid would be in order to perform better. I think there's a huge misconception with just knowing that these things exist and the correlation with these steroids allowing you to immediately perform faster. Sure, they may make you stronger, but is there more detriment in the long term? Does it really last? Is this something that is only going to happen once for you? So understanding this more and more, which we don't today, I think is the ultimate goal. But I think it'll be interesting to understand for which activities of the human body, which compounds enhance and improve performance.
I mean, so do you think that if athletes are maybe given a somewhat of a green light to say, look, we don't know a lot about this, but I feel like and the reason we don't know a lot about it is because no one wants to do it. So
or
it's kind of
talk about it.
Yeah, or talk about it. So you don't have like a good track record or like studies that show what they can actually do for high performing athletes. Is that something that, if there is a thing like the enhanced games, then that can change that and we can learn a lot more through science?
Well, yeah, you guys said that it's not talked about, which is correct. I think it's being done, but it's just not talked about.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So at the enhanced games, we're creating an environment where you are allowed to. It is you're free to do as you wish. You have the tools and resources to use the best of medicine and the best of medicine to improve and enhance your body. I mean, humans were born to compete. Humans were born to run, and optimizing the human body and creating a new frontier of performance, I think, is what we're all about.
Let me ask you a question, Robbie.
Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to try it for a cycle, for a marathon training cycle, and I said, hey, look, we're going to do a test. You can try it. We're going to see what it does to you as far as performance.
You're going to go to Eugene and get your...
See, that's the thing. I don't like in these games. I think it's interesting that we would see it for professional athletes or people that are already really talented, that they're getting that extra edge. But I think the real consumer for this would be the second tier people, because like you think about the super shoes, they benefit the fast guys certainly, but they're finding that the people that are even a little bit slower are getting even more of a benefit because their form and their stuff isn't as great as the professional athlete. And I'm thinking a professional athlete's tuned his body to a pretty high level. You're not moving the needle maybe quite as much for someone that can go from mediocre to next level. That's where you're going to really see interest.
I think that's correct. And that's exactly correct. I think the athletes who are the best in the sport we'll see incremental increases, but who knows? Maybe they will see vast improvements. The second tier athletes who aren't as good as the professional athletes obviously will see the most because of the strength that we know steroids can give you these days. However, there's no replacement for hard work. You can't buy skill. You have to spend the 10,000 hour rule. You have to put in your work. You have to learn the techniques, and you have to do it in a manner that you strengthen your body using these techniques. It's not like you take a magic pill and you're on the podium at the Olympics. So you're going to have
that would be cool. Well, I always say that to people. They said that it was cheating for Eliud Kipchoge to have the Alpha Flies and these super shoes when the other brands didn't have it. And I'm like, it wouldn't matter. Like, I can't catch up with him in sandals. If I made him wear, hiking boots, he'd still crush me. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, even with steroids, it wasn't a magic pill. It was just repaired your body faster. So it was like these athletes are still putting in the work, putting in all that.
Well, no, there is stuff like increase, like you talked about, increased testosterone. What are the things that are
right.
factors in like? Obviously, there's going to be, for different sports, there's going to be different things that you're looking to build. But I would think anything that involves strength, you're going to increase steroids as far as growth hormone and testosterone and that kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, I think it'll be most interesting to see, a Lance Armstrong type of regime for athletes that allow your body to use your red blood cells to use oxygen in a more robust, efficient manner. Oxygen deprivation for swimming. If you're able to use oxygen in a better manner, you can swim faster, you can last longer. I think that is the benefit, and that's the substance or type of program that swimmers might use. For weightlifters, yes, steroids will help. I'm not sure what the world records are, but people want to see a guy bench press 1,000 pounds or squat 2,000 pounds. For runners, I think you need strength and you need red blood cell optimization as well. So this is just my understanding. Again, not exactly sure because I'm not a doctor nor a medical professional. And it'll be really interesting to see what is developed and what is recommended. And once athletes
what
use
is the drug that it?
Sorry.
What is the drug that increases the oxygen levels for red blood cells? I don't think
it is a drug, but it's more of a it's a program. It's basically a blood transfusion.
Interesting. So when you were promoting the enhanced games, it was the first teaser that came out, and this is probably the thing that got everyone talking. Was you showed a nameless, faceless athlete on the track, and teased that there's somebody out there right now who can break Usain Bolt's world record for the 100-meter. Is that for real?
I love to hear the reactions and responses and questions for this. This video was for illustrative purposes only, and it's been picked apart, which is kind of why we created it. It's it's to show what we're trying to build. It doesn't exist right now. However, we want it to exist, and we hope it exists soon. A lot of people picked apart from the shoes the guy was wearing, from where he started on the line.
And started on
the saying that it was not a track stadium, which is great. That was really cool to see people paying that much attention to detail. So that is just for illustrative purposes.
I kind of see what you're saying is more like there is somebody out there who can do this. It's like the overall, like you're saying there is somebody.
Potential.
We are waiting to see this person, to see this person race.
Yeah, I mean, it's a formidable goal to break Usain Bolt's record. And I think at the Enhanced Games, that's ultimately what we're trying to set out. We're trying to break these records by a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what's interesting is that, we don't know which athletes are actually currently doping all of them. So it would be interesting to see this. But I'm guessing that you did get some angry people reaching out that have made it their mission to keep the sports clean, that are not happy that this is being brought to light or explored. Have you gotten a lot of negative and people that are just fired up that this is going on?
Yes, there have been negative comments, as expected, and pretty obviously with a bold concept and controversial concept such as the Enhanced Games. However, I think a lot of the anger came from if we were to introduce this games without having a level playing field. The level playing field here is we're not testing anyone, and we're allowing everyone to disclose if they're tested or not. The negativity and the backlash came from the misuse of the words like the drug cheat games. Doping, again, is a negative word. So while there is clean sport, the clean sport right now is not clean. We're creating a new version of the sport where anything is allowed, and that levels the playing field. And if there's a better solution for clean sport, I'd love to hear the argument for that. Hopefully this gets... For clean sport, I hope the Enhanced Games, and I think the Enhanced Games will clean up the clean sport by allowing clean sport to test for a new host of compounds and therapies and technologies so that the Olympics will stay clean and be cleaner. So I think it's a win-win ultimately over time.
So the transparency of what people are actually doing will benefit the people that are trying to keep clean sport.
That's interesting.
That's right. And the other side of that argument is at the Enhanced Games, will there be, because the financial incentives will be there, will there be countries or athletes that develop in secret therapies that we don't know about? But those therapies in development, I think the commercial opportunity, the sale and monetary value of those will be too great for those people to keep those in hiding in secret.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because, like you said, right now it isn't. As much as people want to defend clean sport, it just isn't. And when there a financial incentive exists at a race, and you have athletes from countries like Kenya, where $50,000 prize purse or even $20,000 is a life-changing amount of money, there's gonna be no matter how hard you want to keep clean and do testing, it's worth the risk for a lot of athletes in certain parts of the world to maximize. Yeah, exactly.
It's really for athletes. They want to live a better life. They want to live a comfortable life. And especially for Kenyan athletes, $50,000 goes a lot further than maybe it does in North America. So athletes are really looking for comfort and peace. And obviously, this world is run by money. This is a capitalist world. So creating a structure for athletes which pays them, allows them to do what they love without worrying how they're going to fund their next competition or pay for training or coaches or travel, I think takes away from the stress and will actually enhance competition further by allowing athletes to solely focus on their task.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one, though. So we are from a country where we have access to medical, pretty much anything that we could possibly want is here. So if we could get a doctor that would say, okay, this is fine, we can start trying to figure out how we can maximize your ability, we may have an advantage over somebody coming from a third world country or a more economically challenged company. It could turn into a possibility of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I mean, has anybody thought about that?
The scientific commissions and the panels of doctors that we've amassed and will have at the games, everyone will have access to whatever they want. So that's how we've solved for this problem, because that is an obvious. The rich get richer. You have access to certain things. I'm going to keep that for myself. We're allowing everyone access.
Oh wow,
I love that.
That's an interesting. I like that you already thought of that. Yeah. So okay. So this is, what's the date then for the first enhanced games? Is there a tentative date or a confirmed date? When are you thinking?
And when can Robbie get on a cycle?
Yeah. I'll see you there.
The proposed date is Q4 December 2024.
Oh wow, we're right around the corner.
Okay.
So a lot of work to do before then. A lot of work to do, but that's the tentative proposed date.
Do you have a roster of athletes that you're proposing to bring to the games already that are interested in participating?
Currently in development for the 5 different disciplines.
Because I would think if you were choosing to see how far you could go with the assistance of, pharmaceuticals, blood, transfusions, all that kind of stuff, you would want to have enough time to almost experiment or train with it.
Yeah, that's right. I think a good use case for athletes who will join the enhanced games are athletes who are at the end of their careers or feel like they're at the end of their careers or have just missed an Olympic team and want another opportunity to be great. Whether they're enhanced or not, I think that will attract athletes. And, being a former athlete myself, I understand when you become older, you become tired, you kind of lose your passion and love for the sport if you're not improving. So you're willing to explore whatever options you have.
Now, do you have investors behind the enhanced games? Because what I'm feeling like is if the money's there, then you get more of obviously you're going to have more athletes interested in it. Because I see almost like a parallel between PGA and Live Tour. Almost, it seems like one of them is so
sign up early so you're not missing that $1 billion contract.
Yeah, what exactly? One of them seems like the old guard, and then one of them seems like the thing that's trying to change everything. That's also controversial. Do you feel like that's kind of the case? And do you have investors as well?
We do have investors. We do have strong financial backing, and in the next few weeks, that'll be announced publicly.
Okay. Wow.
Awesome.
All right.
Do you need people to cover the track and field events when that happens?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of intake forms on the website. We'd love for you to submit, and we're happy to evaluate.
Okay. And now with the running events, again, I know running is going to be one of the 5 sports. Can you tell me what what the events are going to be within running?
Not just yet, but from a bird's eye view, basically any events that is a short time to goal. So basically 2 to 3 minutes, no more than 5 minutes, those types of events.
Okay. So anything less than basically 1,600, 1,500, stuff like that.
And there will be some, former Olympic events that are no longer part of the Olympics that might be introduced. So we want to make this as, competitive, enjoyable, and as entertaining as possible. Those events, the full event lineup will be released in due time.
And can you tell me the other ones again? Swimming, MMA, or
combat sport?
Yeah.
Track and field, swimming, gymnastics, combat sports, and weightlifting.
weightlifting.
Now,
Okay.
obviously, you're in some ways you got to be pulling the most popular ones to start with, right? Like, I mean, the only thing that I can think of from the summer games that's big, like gymnastics, is one of the biggest. And
Yeah, a good way to think about it is if you're going to the Olympics, if you're going to watch the Olympics, which tickets are you buying? We're going to have those sports.
Right. Yeah. I mean, does MMA, do they drug test right now? I have no idea.
I don't think they do. In certain, I think there is part of the league that does not, but I could be off.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
The X Games doesn't.
And
test
then
and then the NFL also have different
okay.
non-WADA compliant regimes, drug testing regimes.
Right. Right. And then do you have, oh yeah, you already said you were looking at different locations in different countries, right?
Yep.
Okay. And so how did you, and maybe where, like dial it back a little bit, where did the idea even come from and how did it come to fruition? Because it's a bold idea and it seems like it would take a lot of good faith going forward to keep the dream alive. So how did that happen?
So I met Aaron about 3 years ago during the pandemic down in South Florida, and
that's the who's
Aaron's the founder.
Yeah,
Curtis is the founder. So we kept in touch, and we talked about different projects. And he came to me at the end of 2022 and introduced what he was thinking, and I was like, that's really something else. The doping side of it, not really sure about it. So he went back, thought about it long and hard for about 6 weeks, and then came back to me. We sat down. He introduced the concept, and he gave me his pitch, and I was like, "This is great. It's controversial. It's bold. I think with the right support, it will work." Everyone is frustrated with the current Olympic structure. The exploitation and corruption is real, and we spent the past 6 months in stealth developing this, building out a team, creating different objectives and the plan moving forward, and understanding that it is going to be very much so an uphill battle, but we're prepared for that. And the team we've put together is very strong, and the interest we've had, that is continuing to build each day, is very encouraging as we continue to hit our milestones.
Gotcha. Now, in your past history as an athlete, an Olympic athlete, how widespread in your own personal experience was the, doping or whatever you want to call it, skirting the rules, enhancement. I would say at the time it was called doping. But what's your experience in your own sport of swimming?
So it's really hard to tell who's doping and who's not. Obviously, the countries like China and Russia, you always are wondering, how are these guys swimming so fast? You never heard of him 2 years ago, and all of a sudden, he's winning the world championships. So there was many of those cases. Me personally, I think it was the 200-meter freestyle at the London Olympics. I was in a place that if the doping controls were tighter, I would have made the final and had a chance to win or compete for a medal. However, retroactively, like 2 or 3 years later, 2 Russian athletes were, caught for doping.
Yeah.
This is, way after the fact, way after the, program had been enjoyed. So it's really hard to tell currently who is doping and who's not. I mean, I swam at the University of Florida and continued to train there professionally after. And I don't think any of my teammates did, but at competitions, we were always like, I wonder what he's taking, or I have suspicions about this person or that person, but you really didn't know.
My stepsister actually got a bronze medal in the Olympics in swimming, and the second place person got busted for like doping. And this was like only, I'd say 10, 15 years ago they found out, and she was in the, forget which one she was in. It was like 1976 or something like that. But she got bumped up to silver. But it's like just weird. Like they just.
What's even worse is if you get silver and you get bumped up to gold.
Yeah, because They just send her a medal.
Yeah.
That's it.
They don't give you that. They don't give you the money. You don't get all the accolades and rewards.
You don't
get
get the time value as well. Like you've lost all those years and opportunities because
sponsorships.
Yeah, because corruption.
Yeah, I mean that's gotta, man. Like if I work so hard for that, and then just to have, especially when you know it's happening, like because there are certain circumstances when you just didn't I have Katie Ledecky, or am I making that up? But I feel like there's just like sometimes like everyone there knows, everyone watching knows, and you just can't pin it on them until it comes down the road 4 years later. I feel like that has to be the most frustrating thing ever.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating. I mean, it happened to me, and I know a lot of my teammates it's happened to. So trying to create a better structure is what we are employing right now, and we're confident it's going to be successful and solve many of the problems that have plagued elite competition for some time.
I mean, I do think it's fascinating if you just get it down to like a philosophical question. It is like, are we advancing as humans if we limit the potential for biological manipulation?
Yeah, it is interesting, and especially because like we love movies that feature biological, like Spider-Man, any superhero by radio.
Well, yeah, I mean, Captain America is a steroid story.
Right.
I mean, a modern day superhero that's real is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his story is incredible.
Do you think he's steroids?
Incredible.
He's clean.
Everyone, like superheroes. So, exploring and embarking on this new frontier is very exciting. And I think with the younger generations, I think we had a few viral videos that influencers created talking about our concept on TikTok. All the comments were like, very positive. Like, we want this to happen. I can't wait. So that, has been very, very encouraging because the next generation are the next to rule the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to people are just a lot of times scared of change, scared of, there is a little bit of unknown when it comes to it. But I think, and that's just part
you
of the
don't think
package
long-term
deal.
health is scary? Like,
that's what I mean.
Think even for a football player, like
that's part of the unknown of it. Yeah,
they come out and I'm saying from concussions and stuff, they're seeing these shortened lives, suicidal feelings like that. I think that's the scariest part about it, is that without testing this stuff, without knowing, and I think that is something that could be seen as a positive if we are seeing testing and monitoring, and it's less under the table, and people are actually exploring it and testing this stuff and showing you, okay, here's the 20-year effect of it, messing with your biological markers. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I do think could be scary. And then you're also, when you talk about the young people, you're like, is the only path to success going to be, like, when you grow up now and you want to play baseball or something, you're like, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to, spend 20 hours in the batting cage. I'm going to do this. And if there's a feeling of, hey, I can kind of cut to a shortcut to greatness, is that going to be too much of a lure, and that could have long-term consequences? So I think, from my perspective, testing it and figuring it out and actually having science behind it is a positive. But I don't know that I want to be the guinea pig to find that out.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's almost like with anything, like there's moving forward with things, there's always going to be a good thing, and there's always going to be positives and negatives. Mm. So it's like, obviously you have to weigh those against each other. I'm
not saying The Rock is using enhancement, but that guy's in his 50s and looks phenomenal.
He definitely is.
I mean,
it's not
we can't say that. We can't libel. We cannot libel.
All right, he definitely could be.
What's that?
I said, who knows if he is, but some people would like to know. I'd like to know. Yeah,
well, if you could, and you look at Arnold, and if he was, he's doing pretty well in his late, how old is he? Like, is he 60, 70? 60s, yeah,
I heard on a podcast them discussing The Rock. I think it might have been on Joe Rogan, and it was like, I mean, like the
Allegedly.
allegedly, there's almost no way that you could keep that physique at that age. But
Yeah, but
that's
who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, who
We'd
knows?
like
No
to-
one
we'd like
knows.
to explore
We'll
and
find out.
Yeah, let's see.
And
Like
but,
there'll be a retirement home with like all these jack dudes.
but like again,
If you're happy
he's
and
one of the
healthy and
most
feel good, why not?
exactly.
Exactly.
And again, he's one of the most celebrated movie stars, figures in pop culture, and there's a reason for that because he looks really good, and he is.
Hey, man, I would love to be able to lift something as heavy as he can. But yeah. All right, you wanna wrap it up, or you got more questions?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I'm pretty open minded when it comes to just I'd say stuff in general, but this is definitely interesting to me, and I'm glad you came on because I really want to have a deeper conversation about what it means and kind of the reasoning behind the enhanced games. And I think there's
An argument for it.
yeah,
for
there's
sure.
definitely. I don't like when people write it off immediately because if people actually read what you're all about and look into it, there's a case to be made. No matter what you think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we really appreciate the support, and it's a pleasure to be on the show. It's a matter of education and time, and it's not all going to be an easy path to having the first games launch seamlessly. There's going to be a lot of work and a lot of challenges that we'll have to overcome. However, we're building a community that's been extremely supportive, and we're thrilled with the progress we've made so far.
Cool. Anything else, Thomas?
I'm good. I find this fascinating. I'm actually the more important interview I think will be after the first games. Have you back on and like, wow, what happened? And tell us some of the
Thomas,
stories.
if you're excited
Because I
about
think
it,
it's
I'd encourage you to try out to compete. There will be qualification standards.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be rad.
Dude, I'd have to contact a doctor right now. I can't. But I would love to check it out. Honestly, we'll definitely submit our names for media passes because I'm fascinated by this. I'm like, aren't you?
Oh
curious?
yeah. If anything else, I mean,
I'm curious about the characters that are going to come out.
It doesn't even matter what you think about it or test or drug testing or not.
You'll be watching it.
The concept of it is an incredible story. Like, it's an interesting story. So I'm down for interesting stories, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, how are you not going to watch it if you're a regular athlete?
The Olympics have never been challenged. Everything's being challenged these days. You have taxis to Ubers,
Yeah.
Blockbuster to Netflix, and then you have Olympics to enhance.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay, Brett, thanks for coming on to the show and letting us know more about the enhanced games. We'll be interested to see what happens over the next year and a half. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again at some point in the future.
Yeah. Save me a ticket.
Thomas, thanks so much. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and we'll be in touch.